Hello, this is a Private Investigator Experience podcast, and I'm your host, Phil Little. On this channel, we talk about the cases of life of a private investigator, and we also look at situations around the world that could affect us here at home. And you might say, well, how could that be? It's something that's 7,000 miles away. One big example, the attack by Hamas on southern Israel that killed hundreds and like 1,200 and kidnapped 250 and brutally. And within days, all over the world, anti-Semitism had sprung up like it's on cue, and there was major money behind it, leftist billionaires and others. And we have seen chaos around the world, and particularly in the United States, with this anti-Semitism. So that affected us. It affected so many people, not only going to universities, but in communities around where these radicals were holding violent protests. So I look at these cases the lens of my law enforcement, military, intelligence service, and global security background. Then I just add a touch of my biblical worldview to come up with solutions. I started my international career in southern Lebanon and Israel in the 70s. And from there, I learned about terrorism. My first book, Hostile Intent, talks about my search to find the source of terrorism when I realized that it wasn't just about the Middle East. From there, I set up an international intelligence organization with stations out around the world, local members of law enforcement, intelligence service, counterterrorism units, which provided me information every month about what was going on in their areas. And when we had an operation going on there, they did the pre-work and also set up the armed teams that we might need in a local country. So I want to look at two situations today that can affect us and that our government, I hope, is on top of. And this could be an open letter to the president of the United States. Mr. President, you're doing awesome. They attacked on Iran to help eliminate their nuclear capability, with Israel doing most of the heavy work. That was commendable, but that's not the end. There's no peace going to be between Iran and Israel because this is a religious war for Iran. The radical Shia Islam theory of the 12th Imam means that they have to start a war to destroy Israel to have their 12th Imam come out of the cave to help them defeat Israel and ultimately set up a Islamic element all over the world. So a peace treaty is going to work. My word from on the ground, what I'm hearing there is that they're already out with excavation units and large equipment trying to dig into some of these destroyed plants to find out how deep in the ground the bombs went. And perhaps, like at Bordeaux, which is so deep underground, maybe it's just the entrances that have been blocked and not the interior. So they're right back at it. So, Mr. President, you need to keep your finger on the trigger because you might have to go back again. Because if not, they're going to keep trying till they can destroy Israel. Now, the other situation is with Hamas. There isn't any way that Hamas is going to have a peace treaty with Israel. They keep saying that if they get a chance, they'll do another October the 7th, 2023 event. And they mean it because they're promoted, built, financed by Iran as well as Hezbollah. This is not about a plot of land. This is not about power. This is about a destruction of a race of people. And if we better understand that, otherwise, we're going to be fighting a lot bigger war later on. Now, something interesting out of this that is food for thought, it's a little biblical information here that I think is interesting to look at. In the Bible, there's been a couple thousand prophecies, and most of those have already come to pass. There's some ones that haven't. One of those is a war that is talked about in Ezekiel 38. And this war is before the end of time, and that's when Iran, Turkey, Russia, Sudan, Libya, it's led by Russia, move into Israel to try to destroy Israel. No one's going to be there to help them, according to prophecy. Not the United States, and that's hard to imagine. But something's going to happen in our country, folks. So we need to be aware of who we're electing and who we're putting in office. Because if we're putting a leftist, Marxist, communist, socialist, or whatever they call themselves, who hate Israel and who won't stand with Israel, and they could wind up being evil and destroy the future of America. So now what this means now with the situation with Iran, they've been neutered. Their military, their missiles, the air superiority, they had no air presence. Israel was at will what they did. So they're not capable. And if they can't build back this nuclear capability, no way of getting an Israel, no way of starting the war, no way of releasing their 12th email. So what are they going to do? They've already made a treaty with Russia and Turkey, and a couple of other countries are involved in that. So now we see the setup. Because I was wondering, how is this all going to happen? The Ezekiel 38 war has to happen because God's prophesied it, and he's not done anything yet that he hasn't completed on what he said. So I thought, if Iran keeps trying to get this missile or the atomic weapon, and they never get a chance to go at Israel, they didn't see the connection here, but it's happened. Their destruction now is such that they might, well, our only way is to team up with Russia and have Russia take the lead. Well, how can Russia do that? They've lost over 1 million soldiers. They've lost equipment. They're neutered too in so many ways. How could they lead an international coalition that the world wouldn't stand against, Europe wouldn't stand against, nobody? So there's still some work to do, friends, but we need to be aware. The Bible says that none of us will know when the end is going to come. Only God himself. But he says, I leave you signs that you can be aware, you can be alert, you can study, and you can read some of the signs that are happening so you can know what's to come. But those of us who've read the book and finished it in Revelations don't have to fear. We know what the end is going to be. We know who's going to be the winner, and it's not going to be evil. Get informed. Get some information for yourself. Don't take my word for it or anybody else's. You can go out and find all this information. It's all out there, most of it on the internet or web. We do have some sources that you might not have, but it is everything on the web. So we need to be, look what happened after the pandemic. We succumbed. We fell prey to the tests that they ran. That virus came out of Wuhan lab, and the test was to see, can we control the world? And I tell you, the world caved. They were so shocked at how easy it was to get the Americans subdued. And even the church, they were more shocked, according to reports I've seen and heard, that the churches succumbed and caved like they did so quickly. And then, of course, we had those that rose up. And now we know it was all a hoax. It was all a plant. And we know the science that was not science that they were trying to lead us on. That's all out there. You can check that out for yourself. So we need to become aware now of what the future could be and work to make sure we have a secure, safe future for our children and grandchildren. Now, in the investigative world, we perform all types of investigations, consumers, corporate, government, military protection, electronic sweeps, undercover operations, tailing surveillance, lab work on forensics and graph, and you name it. The phone rings at a private detective agency that's like being at the police department again. There's somebody on it with a problem, and you never know what it's going to be. And we've had some interesting ones. We've had some fun ones. And we've had some sad ones. Some of the most sad situations I found when I was in law enforcement was going to a home, and this was back in the early days, way before they had the laws they did today on domestic violence and all that. But when we left homes, we couldn't, our hands tied, we couldn't do anything. We knew those children were going to be put at risk. And it was a sad situation. And sometimes to find out later on that some of those children died at the hands of a violent parent. We now have laws that are totally different. So we work a lot of child custody cases and situations where kids might be at risk. But it's just the whole drama. People say, "Oh, what do you specialize in?" Well, I specialize in helping people solve their problems, meet their needs, find peace. The thing that I used to love getting from a client, large corporate, 500, Fortune 500 companies, or whatever, I would get this letter from the CEO or president, owner, and they'd say, Phil, we just want to thank you for what your team has done for us. But more than anything, you've given me peace of mind so that when I go home at night, I know that my facility and people are protected. Well, that's what we give. And it's with knowledge that we can make the right decisions. Israel found that out after they formed the nation back in 48, reformed, and they knew that it was only with superior knowledge that they would be able to survive. And look what they did. Not only with that pager situation about a year and a half ago, when they had infiltrated the Hezbollah's ranks, this is what they did in the prep work for destroying the Iran's capability. They implanted people over these last 2 or 3 years, cells, got them embedded. They got the ability to have drones and other things built. And so they paved the way for the Israeli planes. Amazing. There's no other intelligence agency in the world as good as some of them are. The Mossad is hats off. They're one. They're using their knowledge. They're checking out the information like you and I ought to be doing. We are stockholders of the biggest companies in the world, and in our country, a democratic republic, it's not a democracy whether the vote counts. Whoever gets the most votes, if he was evil. We have systems and laws and ways that, like with a presidential candidate, that's why they have the electoral college. There's a reason for that, so that one or two parts of the country can't control the elections and who gets elected. We need to become part of that. Start your local community. Check out what's going on around you in your schools, in your police departments, in your community policing. What's your local city council doing? Your school board doing? There's been so many people that have risen up over these last few years and changed school boards that were corrupting our children's minds with pornography and gender confusion. That's evil, what has been done. And I tell you, life's too important and critical. We need to understand where life started. In the Word of God, in Jeremiah 1:5, and there's other many places, God said, before you were in the womb, I knew you. I named you. I had a plan for you. Now think about that. Is that a blob or just in that womb? No, that's a life. That's a life. God made that child to have a purpose. And there are 60 million plus lives that were destroyed for people's convenience or just for evil. We need to stand up, find out what's going on. Now, if you have a problem in your family or business, and you might say, could a private eye help me? Send me that email at pi777 at gmail.com, and I'll get back to you and let you know if one can and how it might work. Would you help me by liking, sharing, subscribing, and hit that notification bell for future posts? God bless you. May God bless you, your family. May God bless America and help us stand strong. Because, folks, in November of 2024, the war wasn't won. We won a battle. The war is still going on. There are more battles to fight. And only you and I together can win. Let's come together, millions of us, to rise up. See you next time. Be safe.